Greetings, everybody. So, my name is Simpson. I'm a Jamaican author. I'm actually currently out of Jamaica right now, living in Panama. I am an author of six books. My most recent book is a motivational quotes book titled Finding Peace. For me, your peace is very important. A lot of times, or oftentimes, men are viewed as you are supposed to be strong. You're not supposed to show emotions, and men go through things just like everybody else. Like we all go through stuff in life, but men are often looked at as we are supposed to be strong, so we're not supposed to show emotions and go through certain things, which in turn will force us to just be battling trauma, be battling a lot of stuff mentally. For me, during COVID, I was going through a very rough patch in my life. Whereas I was yearning for peace. I was yearning for peace, and I started building my relationship with God, and that's when I was able to find peace. And I'm telling you this, like when I found that peace, I didn't want to let go of it, but I in turn did lose touch of that peace. So I'm actually on my quest right now to gain that peace once more. So my book Finding Peace is just a depiction of me on my journey to finding that peace and to trying to maintain that peace. So it's a book filled with motivational quotes that I've written over a span of 3 years, 3 plus years. Just a bunch of motivational stuff, real life stuff that I've gone through and that I've used, whether it be a bad situation, I just try and flip it around and push some positivity so I can motivate and inspire others even through my journey of ups and downs of finding my peace. Big up to the International Writers Expo. I took part previously virtually, and it was an awesome experience. Just being able to connect with writers from all over, not just the Caribbean, but Canada, the U.S., and even Africa. So big up to the International Writers Workshop. Big up to the sponsors. Big up to each and every author. It's a challenge to write and to remain a creative. So big up you guys. Big up on yourself. Continue creating. Continue networking with other creatives, and just continue pouring into each other on our quest to finding our peace. And trust me, once you guys find that peace, just hold on to it and protect it. Protect your peace. Bless up and take care. Big ups once more to the International Writers Workshop. Peace.
Good afternoon, peoples. My name is Mutendei Rights. I am part of the IWW Collective, and I'm happy to be here and speak to you today as we proceed with the wellness check-in. So my presentation, which I believe begins the presentations, is on using rightness as a wellness and global business tool. So uh, jumping right into it, in my experience, uh, when it comes to writing and wellness, wellness is not just the absence of conflict, but the ability to manage it and spin it towards a positive, non-judgmental outcome. The state of wellness is also underpinned by being able to communicate authentically, whether in the absence of safeguards or not, which is mainly anchored by the environment you find yourself in and your personal perspective about it. So, how does this relate to writing? With respect to writing, I see wellness management as a process that learning and practicing creative not fiction and nonfiction writing goes a long way in developing and bettering. Why is this so? One, objectivity. So writing creative and non-fictional work, in my experience, requires you to be objective and consider both sides of any story or any conflict. As such, your personal bias is minimized in favor of playing the advocate of both sides of the story you want to develop. Writing out different perspectives is one of the simplest ways to play the advocate of both sides. Secondly, it helps you develop chronological sensitivity. Developing a story, whether nonfiction or fiction, helps you appreciate that events and the people experiencing them move at different speeds and times and may internalize and respond to occurrences or circumstances at different speeds from you, which you may find outside of your norm or comfort zone. So, being chronologically sensitive helps you to consider this for others, as well as position how to communicate that other people should consider the same for you. Interconnectivity. You may have probably heard the saying, it takes a whole village to raise a child. As a storyteller, it also takes a village of characters to build a story and tell it holistically. So this involves creating a collective of balanced characters that capture differing perspectives and draw parallels between your story and the real life circumstances you want to personify for your story and for your reading audience. Broadening perspectives. When writing within the village structure, today's audience is a global village. And as such, it's one that you must be aware of and accommodate, considering cultural sensitivities, but doing so without doing a disservice to material facts, existential, learned logic, and objective truths of other cultures. Avoid projectionism. And if you can learn how to recognize and curtail projectionism through the buildup of characters in your own writing, then you can do the same with your real world interactions and better present and perceive boundaries. Consider broadening perspectives allows me to segue into recognizing and using writing as a global business tool. With the emergence of global audiences through internet connectivity in the business of writing, the following strategies for writing as a business enterprise will uplift achieving your end goal. 1. Being a cultural translator. As a writer, you may be able to, and you need to be able to dissect, build up, and present the story you want to tell across cultural barriers. This requires building an appreciation and understanding of the cultural lens that your potential or intended audience views the world with. You can then tweak your story accordingly so the cultural lens is not an impediment or barrier in its reception. Shifting to discuss this in respect to stories, we write stories as metaphors and mirrors of real life, with the characters as reference points for problems and solutions that we want to dissect, along with the characters being recollections of past memories, both good and bad, that we seek to relive, or characters that are visions of the future that we seek to bring to life. Managing the trade-off between internal and external voices. With all the complexities of writing within the global framework, think of writing like a river that you want to jump into, a river you want to immerse yourself in the experience and process of creative development. So how much of yourself do you want to put into the course of your story? And how much of yourself do you want to put into the message of your story? There is another saying that I heard a long time ago, and unfortunately I cannot remember the source or the exact phrase, so as I paraphrase, excuse me, if it differs from the original saying you might have heard or know. The passion that you pursue, or the adventure in you, or in the case of art, the artist in you, is the inner child that did not die. Many people grow up and mature within a societal structure that sees their inner child wither and shrivel away. Writing and reading inspired work allows an escape from this and a means to reconnect with one's inner child while maintaining your duality of existence as an adult. In regards to the business of writing, have a safe zone emergency stop mechanism. Writers, like other artists, always tap into something inside themselves when they get into a zone or hit a stride in their work. This, however, is not often recognized as an energy transfer. When opening up to these energy channels, there's always the risk of opening the floodgates and overwhelming yourself with the weight of the subject matter you may be seeking to tackle and write about. Having a safe zone or emergency stop mechanism helps you avoid burnout maintain your productivity, and deliver your story to the world without delays or harm to yourself that would shake confidence in you within your target audience. Fourthly, the dichotomy of writing on the global stage. We live in a world where there's no location, culture, or people free from historical baggage. As a writer, despite how much knowledge you may have acquired, more often than not, in such a broad world, you will be an outsider. Being an outsider, it is very easy to lose sight of the fact that you may think you are the solution when in reality you are the problem. A clear reference example of this is the white savior trope or cultural appropriation. Thinking that you can make someone's culture better, discounting the fact that they have survived independently of your views for an immeasurable and unknown time. Never forget there are always two sides to a coin, and you may not be the right person to flip it. Fifth and lastly, feasibility. In relation to the problem and solution dichotomy of writing, is the problem that you want to tackle one that you should tackle alone? And do you have the knowledge and sufficient experience to construct the solution? This is the very reason why many creatives immerse themselves into the worlds or fields that they are not familiar with in order to get a frame of reference needed to accurately personify the specific element that needs deeper understanding to write about. Avoiding this can result in baggage. Some baggage you can carry and some you can't. This is a consideration that you must contemplate before you go into an immersive experience, as there are some things that you cannot unsee. It's also prudent as a contingency to have a support system or person that can help lessen the weight that you may undertake. A real life example is childhood actors and music stars, many of which have at some point of their early adulthood or later on in life crashed and burned, some recovering, and others unfortunately becoming tragic casualties. Pre-writing is a solution to this. In your pre-writing phase, do sufficient research to know how deep the rabbit hole goes before you dive in, and evaluate whether this is really the story that you should be telling, or is it better suited for someone else? And if you feel it is a part of your inherent calling, should you undertake it all at once? Or should you serialize it to make it more manageable in periodic pieces? Personally, I test a lot of ideas before expanding into extensive writing through microblogging and blogging. Firstly, to gauge the public response, and also to gauge my capability and ability to tell the story. As a writer, develop your own test system to see whether you're the best person to tell the story and how your audience responds to you telling it, who you can engage with, and whether you have the fortitude to take on the writing that you're interested in. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me today, and I hope my insights better your writing and personal circumstances and contribute to your experience at the Wellness Check-in. Thank you and enjoy your time here.
Hi, everybody. Hi. My name is Wilmont St. I'm author W. St. This is my author name. And I'm from the sunny island of Barbados in the Caribbean. Pleased to be here.
It's amazing to have you joining us with all your greatness as usual. So you're a writer, and why don't you take us on a journey and discuss how you started your writing career and where you are at now?
Okay, I started my writing career around 2010, actually writing from 2010, 29 to 2010. But my first book was published in 2015, and that is titled Trees of Death. And it's a book that I won an award on my debut. And my second novel was released only last year in May, and that is titled The Vault. And those are the books that actually sprang me to life as far as being a writer is concerned. and writing in a professional way that I can support myself and make a living and search for other golden opportunities out there across the world in literature.
Thank you. And briefly mentioned your latest book. Will you talk to us a little bit more in depth about what it's about, if loosely, and what inspired you to write it?
Okay. My recent release is what we would call a romantic thriller, and it is based in Barbados. Usually my books are based in Barbados, stories of my country, but they would be mixed with a kind of international flavor because the Caribbean is connected to several parts of the world, and so this novel is basically a novel on folklore here in Barbados, the supernatural, slavery, colonization, and such as the topics. So I created this character who is biracial. He's neither black or white, but he's mixed, as we would say in the older times, but now we use the word biracial for respect to all persons. But this character, he's a kind of Sherlock Holmes kind of character, and he's an alienist, and he actually studied psychology, and he would treat people for mental illness. He was also a part of a medical kind of practitioner. He would also um, look after the well-being of persons coming back from the wars in those days. So he was banished to the Caribbean island, and there you would meet these strange events, the moving coffins and so on. So it became quite a hit here in Barbados because of the story itself, of this dark story that is about these moving coffins in 1812 to 1820, while the island was colonized with these rich, wealthy British people and Dutch and several others who had colonized the country at the time.
Hmm. Thank you. That's amazing. So what inspired you to write that book?
What inspired me to write that book is I used to just walk around my island years ago and take photos of funeral statuary. And this statuary is the carving of angelic beings, like angels and cherubs, little babies, and so on. And they're placed on the top of tombs and in burial grounds. And I used to be fascinated with this sculpture, and I then became fascinated now with the churches that used to actually house them in their yard, in the churchyards, in the
Mm.
cemeteries. And during some research, I popped on a book called The History of Barbados, by Robert Schomburg, and he was a geographer. And within that book, he would tell you about laws, religion, colonization, all these things. And then I stumbled onto another book now, which is titled The Historic Churches of Barbados. So I began to recognize that in those days, the Anglo-Saxon religion has spread across the whole uh, um, Americas, the whole of the Americas and the Western world. And this Anglo-Saxon religious belief formed the Anglican Church. So the island is filled with a lot of Anglican churches. I don't know what about Canada as far as if there's this kind of culture really with these churches, but we have like a certain religion. The Anglican Church is what really was on the colony at the time, and I found then that these churches were placed in each parish
Mm,
of the island. So
interesting.
if it was Canada, we would say well each city would have one of these churches and cemeteries beside them. And And then unusually, then you would see even schools beside them too as well. So it would be a school, uh, and the church. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
probably students will go. When we were youths coming up, we would go from the primary school. But then if a chapel was near to you, you would go in there, maybe say a prayers, and then go into school, and begin school like that. So I found that these churches were dotted all over the island. The
Mhm.
architecture of them, the architecture, which is Gothic architecture, was it's kind of fascinating with these kind of arches, and it looks kind of haunting in a way and thing. So I decided, okay, I wanted to study every church. Let me look at every church. I should visit these churches myself. So I set about doing that, and then I I popped up on the mysterious chase vault in Barbados. It's
Mhm.
at a church called Christ Church Parish Church.
Mhm.
And it's near to a town called Town,
Mhm.
and in the southern part of Barbados. And I then I then discovered that in between 1812 to 1820 that there was this mysterious occurrences of moving coffins in a burial vault that was owned by a wealthy uh, planter, and several persons within the family after they have died were placed within this tomb, and other bodies were placed within the tomb before that too. But it carried these vaults that would house each body or each coffin,
Mhm.
and and when they returned, then probably for another interment, the coffins would be scattered about without any logical explanation. So
Wow.
um, I then further discovered that several great um persons had written about the Chase Vault in Barbados, including Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and he was the creator of Sherlock Holmes. Um, Captain and Voyager James Alexander, he wrote the transatlantic sketches, and so there was so much great people that wrote about the Chase Vault in Barbados. A lot of prominent people from Europe and so on. So I think that it was a fascinating story, but a lot of Caribbean people and Barbadians didn't really know that. The average man didn't really know that a lot of these people had actually paid this tomb attention, and it was once a, a famous tourist attraction. But
Mhm.
over the years, it has become dormant, probably because of the superstitions surrounding it.
Yep.
So that today it just stands like threadbare, and hence is the reason for me then to go further into it and to bring it back to life. Then you know what I mean, bring it back to
Yeah.
life, and not only for Barbadians but for the world to know, because the monk when I mean, I don't want to reveal all, but for the world, and they will see, especially when the more the book becomes um distributed to the world for everyone to read it, and the upcoming film, I think that is a fascinating story, and it's very important for dark tourism and things like that in the country.
Definitely. I love that. And I love that you brought it back to life. I think that's so like that's deep, coming full 360.
Yeah.
Um, so when you speak about dark times, I'm just gonna take it so a lot of the energy out here, with the health crisis that's going on. What's your perspective on the mental health in your region following the health crisis?
Oh yes. Mental health in the region is devastating a kind of way in the Caribbean. I mean, like we are seeing mental health issues in the Caribbean, um far more greater than I've ever seen before.
Mhm.
Um, we are finding a lot of young people are suffering from mental health issues, and we are also seeing lots of suicides, um, male and female. It's once it would be a lot of males, but now we've seen a lot of females also too. committing suicide,
Mhm.
and you know, it's devastating. It's become like, I mean, we actually had about 3 in 2 weeks or something like that, and
Wow.
it is really. I think that the crisis. I think that the crisis, we're not sure if the measures were helpful, and it's very disturbing, very disturbing, very disturbing. We have never seen people take their own life on such a regular basis in the Caribbean, never ever before. So I think that for me, in my opinion,
Mhm.
and for all the writing family, all the authors all across the world, all the authors connected to Kaya Publishing, you know, we'll say hi to Mutendei and all the guys and everybody's there. Let's say a great hello for me. But I think that this writing and this journey that we are taking is very important. There are many people that I've met since I've become a writer that would approach me and say, Wilmont, I want to write a book, you know. And I just feel like to me, it's feel like if the only missing thing that some people have in their life is to write a book, you know. So um, it's really, you know, it's in all its simplicity, you know what I mean, and in all of it, you know, we are usually like looked over. Despite writers are behind everything, we're behind the films, we're behind the musicians, we're behind, you know, we have a big crop over down here now. Writers are behind everything, you know,
Mhm.
but yet still we're not known. But, you know, the average person, you know, whether they are wealthy, whether they are poor, whether they are sick, whether they're, you know, they would always think about writing a book, even if it's a story of their life or something. And I think that my writing have done good for me as far as my health is concerned. It's also a healthy thing as well too, because it keeps the mind sound. And
Yeah.
this is a fascinating program, that this workshops and these kind of things, because they would keep person's mental health, other people that would be watching on or even joining us here. And then maybe they would say, well, let me do, let me try it, you know, let me try it as a therapy, you know, a therapeutic way of, you know, overcoming mental stress and things like that, you know. And sometimes your own story can be so beautiful. Sometimes you would read it over and over, or it never gets stale, or, you know.
Mhm.
So I think writing is very, very valuable, and programs like these to help in this time, because 3 or 4 years ago we wasn't expecting something like this to happen.
Yeah.
And I guess that these things that we have done has helped along the way to, you know, each every one of us. Yeah, so that's my view on mental on wellness, and so.
Thank you. So do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to let everybody know?
Okay, well, my head is filled now with getting the release of my first film documentary, um it's titled The Vault Untold, and that is the true story about the mysterious Shares Vault here in Barbados. And there were several attempts of having films with them. There were several small films and short films about it on YouTube and so on, but nothing really major. So I've decided to make something major about it. You know what I mean? We're working with some crews from London, Imperial College of Arts and Royal College of Arts.
Wow.
And my brother was down here quite recently too. He's from the Royal College of Arts, and we are working with a team to produce the film of utmost high quality. And I think it will be a wonderful project.
Mhm.
And uh, we'll be looking to release it to the world probably next year, sometime next year. So I will keep you abreast of everything that's going on. And many big ups to Kaya Publishing. Now here, now I'm here. And Stacey Marie Robinson and
Yeah, man.
Mila, everyone sending love here from Barbados to you. God bless
Much
you.
love. Thank you so much.